What specifically do you want the government to do?
Well, we want them to do three things. Firstly, to widen the eligibility of this culture emergency fund that they've set up, because at the moment it's not going to reach people that need it most. People who've already drawn down funds from that in previous waves, theatres and so on, won't be able to do that at the moment this time around. It's also not open to freelancers and individuals, which it is in other parts of the UK, and so that's leaving freelancers really on the scrap heap at this time of year. We also want them to speed it up. It's been very slow and cumbersome, and that's not really getting the support as quickly as it's needed. And thirdly, we want them to have an urgent review of the insurance scheme that they set up to support the live event sector, because it's just simply not working. It's not fit for purpose. It's very expensive. It's only covering live events in the event of a national lockdown. So all the theatre cancellations that we've been hearing about over recent days, they can't get covered by the government's insurance scheme, and there's no commercial insurance out there for them. So I think with these three actions, we could see many of our well-loved theatres and many of our orchestras and those that have all been affected by the collapse in confidence over recent weeks, and the freelancers, crucially, that work in this sector, having a better Christmas and being better protected.
The collapse in confidence is because people are scared to go out because they don't want to catch Omicron, because they want to spend Christmas with their families. And one of the things that's halted a lot of these productions going ahead is just simply that members of staff have got the virus and therefore they don't have the crew and the cast to put on a show. The government have changed the isolation period from 10 days to 7. They have announced some funding. What more could they really have done this week to try and prevent things like closures that we're seeing in this week here?
Well, as you say, you're right to say it's not just a case of fall off in demand, which has been huge, but it's not simply that. Many of the theatre productions and live events across the country, not just the West End, where over half the shows have had to be cancelled, but also up here in Manchester, in Liverpool, in other parts of the country, shows have had to be cancelled because of staff illness. And as they say, had the government's insurance scheme, a very expensive scheme that it set up many months ago for the live event sector, had that covered all aspects of potential sort of COVID interruption, not just the eventuality of a national lockdown, and many of these productions could have found themselves covered by insurance, which is what you would expect if a theatre show has to be cancelled due to an outbreak of a virus across the crew. Then you would expect it to be covered by insurance, but it's not. So the government could have done this months ago. It absolutely needs to do it very, very quickly. And it also, as I say, needs to make sure, I mean, it's not a huge amount of money, this £30 million pot that they put in, but they need to ensure that very quickly that gets to our treasured institutions, our theatres, our orchestras, our music venues, right across the country, gets to them quickly and is open to individuals, so that freelancers, for whom Christmas is often their boomtown of year, you can also access these funds as well.
Yeah. Lucy, I mean, good news is thin on the ground at the moment, but the headlines this morning suggesting that the risk of a hospital stay with Omicron is 40% lower than with the other variants. That is good news, and would suggest perhaps that the Prime Minister's stance of let's just wait and see is the right one. Where Labour has been pushing for more measures to be introduced, it would appear that perhaps he's got it right this time.
Well, look, it is very good news, and we're all closely following these data points, aren't we? Very, very closely. And yeah, I would say it is a fine judgment. I don't think we've been calling for more measures. What we've been calling for is more clarity, so that people know what the data points are and when that information might start to come available and what actions would follow or wouldn't follow. I don't think that's beyond the realms of what people can expect. So businesses who are trying to plan for a very busy New Year period, for example, people who are planning on travelling, the travel industry, people who've got plans to see family and friends. I don't think it's beyond the realms of the government to be able to say, these are the sorts of data points, these are the kind of criteria that we're looking at that change this very finely balanced situation. And I agree, it is a finely balanced situation. that will change it one way or the other. And these are the times that we're going to review that, and these are the consequences that would flow. A bit like last year when we had the sort of the roadmap. You remember the roadmap coming out. We had dates, we had criteria, we knew what potentially was coming when. And obviously this is a faster moving situation, but you could have a faster timetable if necessary. But at the moment, it's just a sort of stab in the dark, isn't it? And I think that the fear is that the Prime Minister has sort of lost his authority to be able to take the country with him on such a plan. And he can't actually take his own backbenchers with him either. So that's the issue, really.
You just hinted at there, Lucy, this is a far faster moving situation. A month ago, we hadn't heard of Omicron. If anything, if Boris Johnson put in restrictions now for the new year, he could have done that at the beginning of this week. By now, Thursday, it could look like they weren't necessary. There is a case to say, let's just wait and not hurt businesses more than some restrictions could.
I think there is that. Obviously, there is that case, but what I would like to know, what we don't have as an official opposition, and what the public don't have either, is what are all of those data points, not just from a public health point of view. So what kind of level of hospitalisations would be a cause of concern? What kind of hospitalisations of those who are vaccinated as opposed to unvaccinated? Data that we don't have access to. What kind of data point do we need to have about the severity of Omicron and so on versus Delta? What kind of level of infections? What are the range of data points that the government is looking at, as well as the economic impacts, as well as the mental health impacts and all of those things? What is it that they're going to make their assessment based on? I don't think that's a difficult question to ask them, so that then we're all clear as well about what these decisions are being based on, rather than just a kind of, it's just a feeling, we've had a kind of political discussion and I'm not sure I can take my cabinet with me or not. I think that's the fear, that this is sort of, it's in that realm rather than in a realm of here are a range of issues that we're looking at, and here's what we need to see in order for us not to go into further restrictions, or here's what we need to see that unfortunately will mean further restrictions, and what would those restrictions be and when might they come in?